Hello and welcome to the World Chess Hall of Fame. My name is Bjorn Ranheim and I serve as music director here. We're so happy that you could join us for our first ever virtual concert featuring the Rader String Quartet. This is a group of wonderful young musicians from the St. Louis area, recent graduates who are now embarking upon musical and scholastic lives at colleges and universities around our country. They will share with us performances of the quartet as a whole, individual solo performances, as well as a unique piece that was created specifically for this event. So I know that you'll enjoy all of this and you'll get to know them through interview segments throughout the performance. But before we get to the music, I want to, of course, thank our wonderful benefactors and sponsors for this series, Dr. Jeannie and Rex Singfield. Thank you for all that you do for this community and helping us to share culture and music during this important time. I would also like to call attention to the upcoming events on our concert series. This series, the Composer Series, will continue in just a few weeks. On September 14th, which is a Monday, we will have a live stream of Beethoven's pivotal Opus 131 String Quartet. And then we will also have our monthly music series continue on the 23rd of September with the 442s, which is an eclectic group combining members of the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra and wonderful jazz musicians from this region. And so we'll hope that you will tune in to these performances, and there's more information, of course, on our website. So without any further ado, here is the Rader String Quartet virtual performance. Thank you.
Here it is, the Rader Quartet, all in one place, socially distanced from literally across the country. I'm so happy that you guys are able to join me today. We are excited to feature you as our first ever virtual concert at the World Chess Hall of Fame. And when I was kind of thinking about this and how we put together a performance and a program like this, you guys seem like a perfect group to kind of kick us off because you are young, you're energetic, you're willing to try new things, and you're coming off a really big competition win. You were formed in 2018. So, but this particular group, the four of you gentlemen, have been playing together just this entire calendar year or school year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. You formed through the Community Music School in Webster in collaboration with the Chamber Music Society of St. Louis. Can you talk to me about that and that relationship and what that brought to you guys that you may not have had the opportunity to do on your own?
Well, I think, Vera, can you hear me okay? I think there's a lawnmower like going outside. I'm not sure.
Oh, no, we can hear you just fine.
Well, I've been in the prep program for 4 years, and when I started off, I would rotate through different groups, and we'd learn a piece in the course of, I think like under 2 months, and then we'd perform it. And then when we had the opportunity to be in a competition group, that meant we would be together for the whole year, and that offered a different experience from learning pieces faster because we got to really get to know our group. And we were all more serious about it, and we would rehearse more often, and we would travel to these competitions. And I think it helped build like a stronger bond between us, and in the end created more music making and more fun. Yeah,
definitely. That's a rare experience to have that kind of in-depth time with just one group. I think it's invaluable because then you start to trust people musically in a way that you can't if you're still getting to know them while you're getting to know your own part. And so that's a really special thing. Tell me about the Chamber Music Society of St. Louis aspect. What did that provide you?
Yeah, so we would have like concerts, like I don't know how often they were, but so we would perform like at the beginning of like blanking on all the names, but they would have like these concerts, and we would just like play at the beginning of them. So they would give us like performance opportunities, and then I think they also like provided us with like coaching sometimes and stuff like that.
That's great. So it's really, it was a whole village of people who were helping to bring you guys together and give you opportunities to perform.
They also provided financial opportunities for us to compete in Fish-Off and St. Paul and travel and stuff like that.
That's great. That's great. That's a huge deal. Where did the name Rader Quartet come from? How did that come about?
We actually recently got an email explaining where the name came from. So I think there was a foundation created in the name Rader, which is the last name of a couple. And so it just funds local, like, at least from what we know, they've been helping support a competition group in the preparatory program that Vera runs. And so every year for like the past few years, there's been a single group called the Rader Quartet, which has been funded by this foundation.
So the Raiders will go on, but it won't necessarily be you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
maybe one of you guys could talk a little bit about the process of winning the St. Paul quartet competition and what that experience was like in a virtual landscape.
Alex, maybe do you want to talk about that?
So would you like to hear about like our preparation, or just like?
I think just the experience of competing in a virtual sphere, you know, and not actually getting the experience of playing live for a jury. But I mean, I know you guys have had experience performing at that competition. Last year you won second place. This year you won the whole thing. So what were the differences other than the obvious ones of not being able to actually perform live?
For one thing, which was obviously different, was there wasn't as much stress to do well, because obviously there's like our preset performance that we recorded a while ago, and so I personally, at least, I didn't feel that much stress going into it, because as we heard like the different groups, like you could kind of tell if we were doing well in comparison. So I mean, like, not that I expected that we would win at all, but I just knew that there would be a good outcome at least.
Absolutely.
Another thing is that we actually got to listen to everybody, all the other groups perform. When we did it live the year before, we were backstage rehearsing a lot of the time. So I think we only heard like one or two groups actually play live. But this way, when it was live streamed, we got to see everybody and see our friends, and then see who we were competing against.
Definitely. And were you guys surprised with the result, or when you were listening to all those other guys, you're like, oh yeah, we got this?
I think there's a combination of
Yeah.
So tell me about the competition itself. Has it been, do you guys know much about like the history of it? Has it been going on for a while?
I think it began in like early 2000s. Okay. And it, like first couple of years, it wasn't very well known, but then groups that started to win this competition started going on and having really big careers in chamber music performances, particularly, of course, quartet. And this was really one of the first competitions to be made for quartets specifically, which is something you don't see in other competitions like Fish-Off, where you're competing against piano trios and quintets sometimes. And so I feel like this is one of the few competitions where you can like truly get a good comparison between chamber music groups in the easiest way possible, given that it's just quartet after quartet after quartet, instead of having to compare to a trio and all those other arrangements.
Right. So the judges are really comparing apples to apples, not apples to
Yes.
whatever other kind of fruit. Well, that's
and
really,
they have a quartet judge the competition too, which makes it even better in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this year in particular, there were a lot of overlapping pieces like between the different groups. Like there was a lot of Mendelssohns, there's a few Ginasteras. Obviously, a lot of groups all groups were required to do Haydn, but it was like very similar Haydns from the same opus. So it was pretty easy to like compare between the groups.
Theo, you're doing some solo Bach?
Yeah, so I also had the opportunity to select one of my college recording pieces, which I think there were about 5 of that we had to do for all the auditions at all the different schools. And I chose the Largo from Bach's Third Sonata in C major because I felt, although I was touching on how our quartet had a lot of energy per se, and that reflects in our repertoire. I felt something missing from the program. It may have been something more tender and more slow, and I felt maybe it would be nice to have a slower Bach piece in the program. So that was my idea for the particular selection.
So the Mendelssohn was actually was recommended by our coach Kurt Baldwin from the Ariana String Quartet. So originally he had planned out our rep for the year, or at least recommended us to look at, and that was one of the pieces that really stood out to us and that we really enjoyed. So we decided to go with that. As for the Haydn, I think the process that we went with to choose it was we were just listening through the Opus 76 Haydn quartets, which are the most commonly used in competition. And I think we just enjoyed just listening to that piece the most, because it had so much variety in it, and it was something that not a lot of groups had done before. And so I think that's why we chose it.
If I could just jump in briefly, I just thought of another reason of why we might have chosen these pieces. A big thing that plays into our progress as musicians is the factor of inspiration from other people around our age who happen to play things that we really enjoy. And so I think two of the pieces, the Mendelssohn and the Ginastera, were things that maybe not the whole group, but I was particularly inspired to play just from viewing another group around my age performing those pieces. And so for the Ginastera, it was my second year at Fischoff. The winning group included that piece in their program, and we were all just blown away by their performance. And that was one of the reasons that inspired us to play the Ginastera. And for the Mendelssohn, this may not apply to the whole group, but I think I particularly, and maybe Ethan as well, we were both at the center stage string camp at University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. And we heard a quartet with one of our close friends playing that piece. And I particularly was blown away by the performance. Ethan can maybe touch on that as well. But it was so energetic and something that I knew I wanted to play immediately when I heard it for the first time. So the inspiration factor is definitely something that plays into choosing repertoire.
Definitely. Hearing people do something great and be like, I can do that and I want to do that. That's awesome. There's no more compelling reason to learn a piece of music.
I think Theo and I were actually so excited about the Mendelssohn that after center stage strings, we went to Aspen, and then we formed a little group there. We sight read the Mendelssohn, and that was our last rehearsal. But it was really fun to play it. And then we came back to St. Louis, and we were thrilled that our coach thought that was a good fit for us, and we went with it.
Now, there's a couple of you that are going to be featured in some solo pieces as well. Alex, you're playing some Dvorak cello concerto.
That recording, I actually used it for my college audition, at least the pre-screening tapes.
Okay.
And so that it's a piece I've been working on for like, I think 2 years on and off. And so I think it's a good way to use in a like kind of a send-off concert.
Absolutely.
Like just show how much I've improved at least.
why did you choose the Ginastera String Quartet? It's a very unusual composer and a piece that a lot of people may not be familiar with.
Yeah, so the Ginastera, well, first of all, I'll zoom out a little bit and say that the majority of the reasons that we chose the pieces that we did were simply due to the competition requirements, right? So the St. Paul String Quartet, they need a Haydn, they need a Romantic era piece, which is usually the big piece that shows the majority of what your group can do, and then you need a modern piece. So those were sort of the three things that we knew that we had to do for sure. Now, when it came down to choosing the exact pieces, we started to think of things that, one, we all liked. That's the most important thing. We all have to enjoy just listening to the piece at first. And then the second thing is choosing something that plays to our strengths. And I think just reviewing the comments from judges and coaches over the years, one of the things that people continually say about our group is that we have lots of energy. And so that can be used in a good way or a bad way as well. And so for the Ginastera, we thought that would be an excellent piece to showcase the energy and the driving force that we're able to do, especially combining that with a modern piece to fulfill that requirement. And so it just happened to match up with all the things that we wanted, something that we really enjoyed and something that showcased a lot of energy. So that's, I think, why we chose the Ginastera in particular.
So let's talk about where you go from here, both personally and as a quartet. All of you have just graduated, am I correct? You're all seniors? Okay,
Yes.
so you're all scattering to the wind. Maybe we could just go around and everybody can tell me just very briefly what your plans are for next year. And I'll start with Ethan.
I'm supposed to be going to the Colburn Conservatory in Los Angeles, but I'm not sure if school is starting yet or not.
Right.
So we'll have to see. And I'm majoring in violin performance.
Great. Who will you be studying with in Colburn?
With Robert Lipset.
Oh, great. Wonderful. And then Theo, how about you? What are your plans for next year?
I'll be attending the Cleveland Institute of Music. I think that's where you went, right?
My alma mater.
Yeah. And I'll be studying with Jan-Mark Sloman for violin performance, of course.
Fantastic. Congratulations. That's great. How about you, Jacob? What are your plans next year?
I'll be going to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. Currently, I'm enrolled in chemical and biomolecular engineering. So
awesome. Congratulations. That's super exciting.
Thank you.
That's great. And Alex, how about you? What are your plans for next year?
So I will be attending at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee.
Great.
So currently I am enrolled as a cello performance major, and I am planning on pursuing the pre-med track.
Great. That's a very common duo, isn't it? You know, we always come across musicians who are like great performers and very smart people, and they get to this junction. They're like, you can continue to do both your entire life, but you will not be the first doctor cellist. I am sure of that.
Yeah, my brother actually just graduated from Vanderbilt, and he is applying to med school.
That's great. So you're on the legacy track there.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So where does that bring the Rader Quartet? Are you guys, is this the end? You guys went out on a high note, you won the competition, and then you scatter into the wind? Or is there possibilities that you might be able to come back together in the future and perform together?
Well, hopefully we can do that, but since Alex just moved, that might make it a little difficult. But he said he's going to come back and visit, so hopefully when he visits, we can get together and play some.
Good. And Vanderbilt isn't too far away.
Relatively not, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's one thing that I've found in my path. You know, I had a quartet much like yours in high school, and we all scattered to the wind. But the amazing thing has been to have those relationships that have stayed together, and we've all kept in touch. But it's also just incredible to see the incredible careers that everybody has built for themselves. And I think you guys are going to be a perfect case in point. You know, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, we're going to look back at the Rader Quartet. Some of you are going to be probably performing at the highest level and stages across the world. And others of you will be practicing medicine and doing research and bettering our world in many ways. And I think that's an incredible thing. Tell me about the relationships that you guys have built with each other through this process. What has the process of becoming a quartet been like for your friendships and your lives?
One thing I've learned is that we all really like Domino's pizza, which we order pretty much every other rehearsal. But aside from that, I think our rehearsals are just as much a learning experience as they are a bonding experience, and learning more about each of these the other three individuals at every single rehearsal. And it's sort of something where we're in it together, and we have each other's backs all the time. If one of us gets in trouble, the other three of us are there to help that person. And so it's this bond that will last for a very long time, hopefully, even after we go off to university.
Before we go, I wanted to talk just lastly about the final work on the program that you're putting together. And this is a work that you are all recording remotely from your own locations and piecing together for us. And it's a piece called Old Rhinelander. Tell me about this piece. I've never heard of it. I don't even know what it is. So I'm really curious, how did this come about?
I actually, when I was at Center Stage Strings 3 summers ago, there was a friend of mine who was talking about street performing in New York. And he went out and played works by the Danish string quartet with his string quartet in Times Square, I think. He said in about 2 hours, they made like $400 each. And there was this piece that he showed me, Old Rhinelander, and I listened to it, and it instantly was like really cool because there's sounds that you don't normally hear in a string quartet. And there's chopping involved, which is kind of like a scratch on the string with the bow. And so that adds more of a percussive effect. And then there's more like bass provided by the cello and kind of like a beat in the background for like traditional folk song. And that's what it is. It's a folk song, and then but just made hip and cool.
It's fun for me, you know, as an old timer now in the St. Louis Symphony. I've seen you guys all come up from young people, and it's amazing to me just to see the growth in talent and the growth in your maturity and your musicianship. I mean, it's inspiring. it's the first time I've been in a place long enough to get to know people like you over a long span of time. And I'm just so proud to know all of you guys and to be able to feature you in some small way so that we can share your music at least one more time with our community here in St. Louis. In closing, just thank you guys so much. You've been super fun to talk to and really inspiring to listen to. And I know that our audiences at the World Chess Hall of Fame are going to enjoy getting to know you a little bit better and getting to hear that wonderful energy that Theo was talking about earlier. It's very, very evident that you all enjoy making music together. And we are so happy that you agreed to be on our series. So thank you all very, very much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for doing this.
Definitely.